Thanks for checking out my video. If you want to learn more from me, I have a lot of classes on Udemy. You can find the links to a lot of those in the description. Alright, so I did get a question a while back about what is this book for? What does this book do? And I'm basically going to try to flesh it out here. So the so a little bit of background stuff. If you guys have not seen any of my other videos and whatnot, then I have an entire playlist on the Necronomicon. So if you want to dive super deep into this stuff, check out that playlist, or you can even do one-on-one mentoring with me. And I also have several classes on this book and other things around it through Udemy, which you can find in the link tree in the description down below. But so I'm not going to get into the history of it. I might as I do a long rant, but what does this book do? So, for starters, let's break the book down a little bit. The allegorical story is about a particular person, which you can call the Mad Arab, even though that's not technically in here. That's more tied with the Lovecraftian mythos because they try to tie this with Lovecraft. So, the author, as I like to put it, he stumbles on the teachings in that he writes down in here when he is hiking through the mountains of Mashu. I previously made a video on the mountains of Mashu and how they're symbolic of initiation and whatnot, but so he stumbles on these teachings, and then through his experiments, you can kind of consider this like a journal. So the first part and the last part are more of an allegorical story that wraps the idea of how he stumbled on into the teachings, and then his last days before he stops writing. So inside it, it details one, the gate walking system, which can mirror the ladder of lights or the ascent up the tree of life or the Kabbalah, whichever kind of phrase you like to use. So that is an initiatory system that guides you through the 7 Chaldean classical planets: the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So you are tuning yourself to the different energies of each of those spheres as you dedicate time to them. And I actually do a mentoring thing with people through my Patreon if you really want to dive deep on that. But along with that, it has the Maklu texts, which work with banishments and exorcisms, because the earliest accounts of exorcisms actually come from Mesopotamia, i.e., Babylon, Assyria, and or Babylon, Akkadian, and Sumerian. Then it has the 50 names of Marduk in there, which come from the Enuma Elish, when Marduk was crowned the king of the gods of their particular pantheon back then. And he was given 50 names to signify his rising over the king at the time, who was Enlil. And Enlil's name was 50, and then Marduk adopted that number. And then, so he was given those 50 powers. So the 50 powers are different names or weapons that you can call on in order to obtain certain goals. You can kind of equate that with the 72 Goesha, although they're not the same, but it's 50 sigils that of spirits that you can call on for various means. And then what else am I missing in here? So I talked about the Maklu text, I talked about the 50 names of Marduk. Then you have the Magan text, which has a lot of kind of snippets from Mesopotamian stories. You have the descent of Ishtar, you have the Enuma Elish in there, so it kind of gives you their creation-ish story, and then the descent of Ishtar, which mirrors the gate walking or the ladder of lights, the tree of life, and whatnot. So that's kind of an overview. But what does the book actually do? So the way that I like to put it is, when you start working with the book, it's kind of like you're tuning in to a certain radio frequency, a certain level of, how do I put it? You're stepping into a certain kind of current. It's like you going out of your everyday life and then all of a sudden immersing yourself in a brand new culture. You are diving yourself into something new, that is unfamiliar, but transformative. It can change the way that you think about things. It can change the way that you look at the world. It can change the way that you operate within the world, especially if you start working with the actual like magic of it. But when you start working with these particular spirits and just the energies of the book, and you'll really get a sense for it if you read it cover to cover several times over. Just open it up to a section, read through it, put it down. The next day, do the same thing. And the book draws you in because it makes you curious. You get like a taste for it. And if you just keep going with it, then trust me, you'll see what I mean. Even one of the practices with the gatewalking is to read the Descent of Inanna / Ishtar several times over, right? And the more, and if you've ever read a book several times over, like if you had to read like textbooks and stuff in school, the more that you read it, the more you familiarize yourself with it, hence studying. This isn't my original copy, but I have butchered the hell out of my original copy because I carried it on me every day for like 4 years straight. But when you're starting to do these kinds of things and experience the book and even just read it, or you work with the Book of Calling, which has a ritual format for setting up your ritual space, you're tapping into this certain kind of energy that will then reveal itself to you in certain ways. You're tapping into something that can be very protective, can be very powerful, can be a little scary at times, but the only thing that you really have to fear is yourself or any of the stuff in your closet. And the more and more that you work with this book, the more that the spirits that are described in here, and even arguably kind of lend themselves to the book or attach themselves to it. I don't want to sound scary or anything because it's really not. I have not had a single negative experience other than a bump in the night that I can report to this book. So if anyone tells you it's scary and whatever, that's all in their own head, man. Anything is scary if you want it to be. But the more and more that you work with this book, the more these spirits will open themselves up to you, and the more that you are tapping into something that is arguably unseen. You know, you go with like a regular muggle person that doesn't give a crap about any spirituality or whatever, and you convince them to start reading this book and maybe playing around with it, they're going to open themselves up to something that they would have never considered to be real or considered to be possible. And it could really open themselves up to, wow, there is something more than the five senses, physical world, all this cage that we live in that we call physical reality. Thanks a lot, Demiurge. Nice job. If you follow any Gnostic thought or any of that kind of stuff, hopefully you caught my reference. But the more that you work with this, the more you're going to open yourself up to a whole new kind of flavor and energy. So you can use this book for means of protecting yourself from any negative energies, any negative people, even from negative happenstances, bad luck, to negative people that wish you harm, to different spirits and other negativity that just want to wreak havoc in general. You can really kind of help yourself to be protected from that. You can also use the formula in the book to overcome your own fears, overcome your own addictions, your hangups, anything negative that is holding you back in life. This kind of thing, through its transformative properties of the gatewalking, can help you with that. And then as far as everyday life stuff goes, or even internal transformation of traumas and past life stuff, chords, all that kind of jazz that can hold us back from actually doing what we want to do in life, because we all have stuff that's holding us back and holding us down. The 50 Names of Marduk can really help you both with mundane, real world, I want to get this, so I'm going to ask a spirit to help me with it, so then I'm going to obtain it. And then I really want to change this thing about me that I don't like, that I know is screwing me up. You can use the 50 Names of Marduk for that, and you can use the gatewalking for that. So any initiatory system, of course, is going to change who you are, and it can be rough, it can be difficult, it can be shocking and whatnot, but it is all for the better. And then the 50 Names of Marduk, you can use them because each of the 50 names has their own little specialty that they can help you with, like courage, mental acuity, money, plants, um, learning astrology, different things like that. They can help you in those particular areas. But even if you're just wondering about, hey, I want to learn some like protection magic, the Maclu text in here is very, very good for that. Granted, you would have to work with the Watcher first off in this tradition because you're calling on a very, very protective spirit, which is the Watcher, that then acts as like an assistant or a fetcher or go-to that will help to carry the magic that you bring up in this book out to where it needs to go. And you can protect yourself from any number of different things, as I already discussed. So the book itself is a very, very powerful book. It is a very, very transformative book, and it is something that I like to say has so many rumors around it of being fake or fictional or whatever, because that pushes people away that aren't going to really take it seriously. That's why for the first like 2 years or so that I had it, I read some stuff about, oh, it's just H.P. Lovecraft crap. So then I didn't even open it. It sat on my shelf. And then one day I was like, you want to know what? I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to take a look at it. And the rest, if you take a look at my YouTube channel, is history. So anyways, let me know if you have any questions, comments, complaints, concerns, issues about this book or any of the different things that I talk about, or you want me to make any content, any specific things that you want me to answer, definitely drop them in the comments. You can always shoot me an email. Check out my link tree for all my classes, my books, my offerings, my Magic for Hire, and other things like that. But until next time, good hunting.